afternoon. Hi, this is Marlene with Dixie Quilters. Woohoo! And today we're going to work on Barbara Brockman's Civil War. And I figured out what blocks we were on, for goodness sakes. We're going to start with number 34, the Union Square. And let me tell you the story about it. I'm reading excerpts from Barbara Brockman's Civil War Sampler, published, I think, in the early, within the last 10 years. Let's see, 2012. Well, 13 years ago, Barbara Brockman did this book. Now, she has a new book out that's available at Fat Quarter Shop and Missouri Star as of last month, was the last time I looked. And it's called the Encyclopedia of Quilt Blocks. So it sort of talks about more than just Civil War. So it's very interesting, it's very historical. Okay, so we're going to start with Union Square. And Union Square is in New York City. It was given that name because the spot was at the union of Broadway and Bowery. And I think the rendition I'm looking for is something like this one. Let me show you what I mean. For these, for this red here, this is the grouping I'm wanting right here. I'm going to use this beige with a star for where the white is. See the background fabric, the white? I'm going to use this for the small print right there. Okay. I'm going to use this one for the center block. Right here. It's not really a medallion, but I like that fleur-de-lis, I think it is. And then we're going to use this red from To Grandmother's House We Go. That was that line of fabric. And that red is going to be these blocks. Now, I don't know what I want to put there. I may put more red there. Or I might use this. So let me hold all those up together. You'll see that they do sort of go together. And then this for the background. See, that's a nice grouping, huh? I'm looking forward to doing that one. It's the Courthouse Square. And you know, when I sit down here with my big bucket of fabrics, you know, that doesn't look too full right there, but there. See, they're stacked in there, and then I've got 4 more. I've got at least that much more fabric here on the table in front of me. So I try to keep it orderly, but I'm not as orderly as a lot of the gals that are doing videos on how to be orderly. Okay, so the Union Square in New York City was given the name because it was the crossing of 2 main avenues. And it had a park, and it became the center of many public gatherings during the Civil War, from early rallies and troop reviews to ladies' fundraising events. And finally, to Lincoln's funeral after his assassination. So for 20 years in 1865, 20 days, in 1865, Americans waited by train tracks to view the president's coffin as it passed. In New York City, the procession along Fifth Avenue stopped for orators at the square. And one of the 75,000 spectators was 6-year-old Theodore Roosevelt, who watched from the second story of his grandfather's house. So that's Teddy Roosevelt. The pattern, Union Square, was given the name in the 1930s by Nancy Cabot Column in the Chicago Tribune. So you can see right there. Some of them put a medallion in the middle. I'm just going to simply change the color and put the navy blue in the middle there. So again, where'd the stack go? Here's my red for these here. Here's my busy print for these here. These are for the corner blocks. Here's the center block. And we got a nice beige for this white here. I think it'll look nice. Okay, so that is the Union Square block number 34. Man, I'm getting ahead of myself today. All right, so next thing you'll see is you'll see a short where I show the 3 or 4 finished blocks that I'll have today. Okay, moving on. We've already done the courthouse square, because remember, that's the one about the poor guy who had the cannonball fall on his soup pot. And then he moved his family away from all the action to try to protect them. And then his home was used at Appomattox for the signing of the end of the war. So, man, he was at the beginning at Manassas and at the end at Appomattox. My goodness sakes. Okay, next one, The Right Hand of Friendship. Oh, I like this one because there's quite a few books out there that talk about how quilts were used as like communications devices for the Underground Railroad, which is, I love the whole concept of having an Underground Railroad and having people help these folks who had been stolen from their natural lives in another continent and hauled over here. It's just awful. Anyway, so Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad was a wonderful book when I was a child, and I must have read it 100 times. But this one is about the right hand of friendship. And it reminds us that an Underground Railroad continued during the war. In 1863, Archer Alexander, living in slavery near St. Louis, heard of a planned bridge attack by the Southern guerrillas and ran to a Union neighbor's home with a warning. When he realized the punishment that spying would earn him, he kept running into the city, where he met William Greenleaf Eliot, a Unitarian minister with abolitionist sympathies. Now, this is interesting because I have to read this story twice to really catch it. So, Mr. Alexander heard of a bridge attack and ran to a neighbor's house with a warning. I wonder if he was relaying information that his own owner was involved with Southern guerrillas. That must be it. Because then he realized that spying would get him in trouble, so he kept running and met the Unitarian minister. And then the minister agreed to hire Mr. Archer and offered to buy his freedom and that of his wife Louisa, who was left at home with no idea of where a man went. Whew. So here's the copy of the letter that Louisa received with the offer, but dictated a sad reply. Oh, I lost no time in asking Mr. Jim if he would sell me and what he would take for me. He flew at me and said I would never get free, only at the point of a bayonet. Hi, everyone. Hi. You know, I was doing that, the right hand of friendship block, reviewing it and reading the story about poor Louisa, who was trying to get away from the slave owners that held her. And my camera broke down just about then. So I'll pick it up from there. She really was heartbroken that her slave owner wouldn't consider selling her. But as the story goes, she did escape with a daughter to be with her husband. So she did escape with a daughter. And then what Barbara Brockman was talking about here is that we tend to think that illiterate people were deprived of written communication. But many social systems helped those who couldn't write. So sympathetic neighbors took dictation of what Louisa wanted to tell her husband, and letters did get through to him. An informal and a legal post. But the right hand of friendship is the block that I have laid out here. Oh, I think it's hard to see, but it's all laid out, ready to go. Here's the, I switched fabrics in midstream. I'm so sorry. But there's a stripe that coordinates with the stripes that are in this block. I'll show you. And I stuck with the red, white, and blue concept. But you can see the stripes, faint stripes in the corners radiating towards the center. So I did replicate that part. Okay, so we haven't got those sewn up, but both number 34, the Union Square, and number 36, the Right Hand of Friendship, those have been identified, they're laid out, they're ready to sew together, and when they're all put together, I'll put those into a short. Okay, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for next one. I've got number 37, 38, and 39 ready to review. So we'll see you soon. All right, thank you. God bless. Bye.